everybody. I'm Mary Adams, a Digital Transformation Officer with WalkMe, and I'm super excited to be here today. As we all know, when organizations talk about digital transformation, IT is probably one of the largest focus areas, as you're integral to implementing new technologies. And we're excited to tell you guys where we're going with WalkMe and how we can align with your biggest IT challenges. While IT departments face a number of challenges, when we work with our largest IT customers, these are the top 5 that we see over and over again. Security, risk, and compliance. So we know that improving security and compliance is a top priority. As you work with CISOs and enterprise risk, compliance, and other groups, one of the biggest issues is dependencies requiring a partnership between teams. This alignment is often difficult because of siloed applications and processes. This can make it difficult to effectively communicate controls and help employees to understand how to comply with them while they're still completing their work. Typically, training is provided completely separately, and controls are managed outside of the applications and processes that employees complete. This causes a disconnect, reducing support costs and improving productivity. Some of the highest ranked organizational challenges that I hear about from customers is that employee engagement needs to be improved. They need to increase employee retention, and at the same time, they need to improve productivity. You might be wondering why everything on this list is about employee experience. But if you attended our session, data plus action equals experience, then you heard. The shift is to put the employee first and deliver a unified, personalized experience, connecting employees with the business processes. The traditional help desk and knowledge-based approaches don't really solve for that. And then there's change management. Not only in working with customers, but also working with Gartner and other analysts, we know there's a heavy emphasis on streamlining change management. In talking with some of my largest customers, I've heard that employees can be hit with as many as 5 to 10 changes a day, every day. Whether those changes are system, policy, application, process, the list of changes goes on. But one of the latest buzz topics that we're hearing is that even cultural change is something that customers want help solving. As an example, we work with customers all the time on their large ERP migrations or new application development and custom application enhancements. But once these are deployed, we all know the need for change management is not complete. Between version upgrades, new interfaces, new workflows, and new business processes, changes continue forever. Communication. One of the most challenging issues that we continue to hear when talking to our customers is that communication's all over the place. Employees are bombarded with lots of applications sending notices, non-centralized communications, and many employees are still living death by email. I've had many customers ask, how can you help me prioritize the importance and sequence of these communications? Is this something IT can help with? And lastly, in speaking with IT customers, we see a large movement to cloud and SaaS solutions, often because all that is required to use one is an email and credit card. Often, IT isn't even aware the business is using these solutions. As a result, traditional discovery tools aren't providing the usage data needed to perform key functions like enterprise architecture, asset management, finance, contract renewal, financial invoicing. Because this is a large organizational expense, a top priority for many IT groups is to drive application and platform ROI. And let's face it, you have discovery for on-prem and cloud, but you don't have discovery for all of the SaaS providers being used by the business. And even if you know what's being used, do you know how it's being used, or how much, or how effectively? So let's just talk about these. Let's go back to the subject of how many applications there are out there and how we see the stack. On the screen is a fairly typical example of those SaaS providers and how our customers can utilize our dashboards for a bird's eye view across the various business capabilities, like HR, accounting, etc. Boy, there are a lot of applications, aren't there? And more are added every day. As IT, we need to be aware of what's out here and how it's being used so we can adapt our organizational change management and become more resilient and future-proof. Because there are so many applications that employees have to use every day, it's easy to see how they can be overwhelmed by changes. There's often a trickle-down effect where the changes to one system, interface, or process will affect a multitude of other applications within the central ecosystem. It's no wonder that employees complain about the technology they use and the constant changes they need to adapt to. So let's take a deeper look at this. It's not enough to simply know what applications are being used. We need to understand how they're being used. Rather than just looking at whether someone is logged in or not, what's critical to understanding the value of this tech stack is the usability and adoption of these solutions. Quite often, our customers discover unused modules, duplicate capabilities, and even process roadblocks by leveraging the data that we provide. We provide three key elements: data, action, and experience. We know how users are engaging with technology and the workflows they're completing, along with the points of friction in these processes. Having this analytical data helps solve the problems that hinder digital adoption. And speaking of digital adoption, it's a huge bucket. Almost everyone watching this session has an objective with budget attached for this bucket. Look at this statistic. By 2025, 70% of organizations will be using digital adoption solutions. That's a huge number. It's very similar to the number we used to see specifically just for digital transformation. So now more than ever, as I work with customers and we talk about digital transformation, we also talk about digital adoption, not just from the lens of the process, but also the data. How are you managing the changes you're rolling out through your digital transformation program? What I've learned since being at WalkMe is that many of our early customers only used WalkMe as a big bang at the end of an application migration for training. However, what our most successful customers quickly learned is that by leveraging WalkMe in a more agile method, every change and what we are doing to implement change across the organization is being monitored to reduce overspend and increase adoption and utilization of their most critical IT projects. It's amazing how when we start with most customers, they only think about user adoption of one application. But you and I know that many processes require users to move from one application to another, and they need to be able to navigate the entire process, not just what's in a single application or form. It's more than just filling out a form. Can you answer the question of whether the process is working? Even with the underlying applications, you can use WalkMe to monitor the adoption of the changes and their impact on the processes. You can make adoption success a fact-based objective rather than a subjective concept. Using WalkMe's data, if you identify a friction point and need a simple fix, you don't need to change the source application. You can also leverage WalkMe to solve the friction. So let's reiterate. Imagine your projects and your operations can now be empowered with the ability to see the entire tech stack. Your annual targets for software ROI are now measurable, and you can see adoption. You can get ahead of the organizational change management, get ahead of the issues that users have that make them less resilient. You know, I often hear CIO confessions. I used to talk about digital transformation, but what I would hear from CIOs is that the true need is digital adoption, because change doesn't matter if humans don't adopt it. And those are true confessions from some of the largest CIOs I work with. So let's just be clear. Change is never a one and done, and adoption doesn't happen overnight. So adoption provides the exponential value to monitor, measure, and exceed the ongoing targets. The real truth is that change is never going to end. Adoption is continuous. With WalkMe, organizations can gain value out of the technology that remains untapped at the very beginning of the software implementation process. During implementation is where organizations typically invest resources in change management and training, but often neglect these aspects once an implementation is completed. With WalkMe, organizations continue to reap the benefits of their technology stack as time goes on, regardless of a change in software, employees, or customers. You can create a rolling implementation plan for additional functionality that's included in the product, but which was not initially implemented. This leads to improved ROI. So another way to think about this is that we take a user-first approach to digital transformation. by leveraging machine learning and other algorithms to unlock the technology usage and consumption data from the actual user point of view. And we empower you with discovery tools that highlight the journeys and workflows in your organization. With knowledge comes power, the power to take immediate action by automating and leveraging best practices right on top of your existing software stack and workflows, all in order to deliver a unified enterprise user experience directly to your employees. Another way to think about this is that data, experience, and action equal monitoring adoption, user adoption, and process automation for action. With WalkMe Enterprise, data gives insight into user challenges through 3 layers of data: overall visibility into the organization's tech stack, an understanding of the workflows with machine learning, actionable analytics on specific workflows, and then action allows business to immediately resolve workflow and application challenges using on-screen guidance, tooltips, automation, a conversational interface, or other changes to the UI. An experience reveals the ideal user experience that your employees and customers expect. This can be in the form of seamless on-screen guidance or help menus, or centralized through WalkMe Workstation directly on the desktop. With these 3 layers, you have everything you need to drive business outcomes. That's digital business optimization through the enterprise user experience. And then once we have visibility into what needs done, one of the next hurdles that organizations are struggling with is, where do people begin work? At what point in the process do they need help? Imagine if you could meet customers where they are. Workstation is a gateway to work, and WalkMe can help you start at any point in the process. Then employees, suppliers, vendors, people who interact with technology become more productive. What's even better is that gateway to work also automates action to provide real user value. So it's no longer just a search engine. It's a bot that automates the questions to the backend system, and a system that summarizes the contextual day in the life of any of your employee profiles. Let's look at where many of us are today. We have knowledge bases, we have intranets, we have portals, and boy, we provide training and change notifications. But these are typically all outside of where the employee actually does their work, and they're often very static. With WalkMe Workstation, you can provide all of the above directly within the process the user needs to complete. And you can even automate actions like requesting time off without having to leave the application you're in, submitting a help ticket, and even viewing data in your CRM, again, without ever leaving the application that you're in. So how does WalkMe do all this? I'm really excited to bring you guys a demo with the help of my colleague Scott, who's going to show you some of our favorite features in action.
Thanks, Mary. Introducing myself, I'm Scott Jensen. I am a principal sales engineer here at WalkMe. I've had the pleasure and privilege of being here for over 5.5 years. And today I'm looking forward to showing you through a live demo of WalkMe how you as an IT organization can enable you and your business partners through our data, using our code-free action and editor capabilities to generate an employee experience that is truly going to help you achieve the objectives that your IT org has in this fiscal year.
Let's start off the data demo with the Systems Overview dashboard. This is where you can keep track of all of the systems in your enterprise that you care about. You'll be able to monitor the number of users who actually are leveraging the platform, the amount of time they're spending on average, and if you've deployed WalkMe, how many users are actually leveraging WalkMe. But of course, you don't need to implement WalkMe before you can start getting these metrics. Overall, this helps you get an understanding on an ongoing basis of the number of end users. Are you getting the most out of your license utilization? And using IDP data, you can even see what systems you may not be aware of, which either could be good opportunities for WalkMe, or perhaps could be shadow IT spends that you consider consolidating on a future date. But this is just a measurement of the usage of individual applications. WalkMe can also provide you metrics on progress for achieving your key business objectives in the Adoption Projects dashboard. Here, you can have multiple WalkMe implementations and analytics roll up to one executive view dashboard, which helps you understand your progress. As one example, let's talk about application adoption. Perhaps you're switching over to a new technology, or You invested in technology that isn't strictly required for use. Here, you can see how your WalkMe communications and other change management plans are actually driving adoption of the application on an ongoing basis. There's also the matter of training and onboarding. Whether it be you have a new system, you have a bunch of new hires, there's been a reorg, or perhaps an acquisition. Here you can see at a high level your employees' progress in getting trained onto a system. Now, whether it be the change management use case or the training use case, maybe there is an impending deadline and we want to ensure process assurance, whether it be from the perspective of compliance or just for the benefit of the enterprise. Here, you can actually measure process completion. So you'll have a real-time update of how many end users have actually made their way through, say, enrolling for benefits, or perhaps updating their profile within their HCM platform at the beginning of the year. And then finally, all of this ties back to the employee experience and employee satisfaction. We make improvements in the application to make the employee's life easier, which in turn turns out better data and better business outcomes. And leveraging WalkMe's surveys at key points within the employee journey, you can get an understanding of employee NPS or Net Promoter Score, so then you can take action accordingly. So overall, this and the systems overview dashboard will give you insight at high level into success and usage. But ultimately, when it comes down to deploying WalkMe, perhaps you'd like to know more about individual business processes or even screens. WalkMe Analytics provide you that insight as well. What we're looking at is the UI Intelligent Dashboards, which is available for select systems. And here you can get an understanding of the adoption of individual fields in a heat map sort of setting. In this case, the example is Salesforce, a customer relationship management tool. Errors, so how many errors are happening on individual fields? Are they simple errors, just completing the field, or is it something a bit more cryptic that could be a good opportunity for WalkMe hover tips next to the field? And time spent. If there are fields that are taking a lot of time, such as this 2-minute entry here, but in reality, we just want templated data to be put in, so then when it's passed downstream to a service desk, the user gets the right information. This could be a really good opportunity for WalkMe automation. Overall, this is going to be passively collected without any effort on your end, so you at any given point in time can check in on, well, where's a good opportunity for increasing efficiency and data accuracy? Now, in addition to a field-by-field level view, there's also the end-to-end business process. When I'm doing a transaction within a software, I'm going to be visiting a screen, performing a click, then another click, see another screen, and eventually click submit or save or approve. Here, with WalkMe funnels, you can see a visualization of that user journey. You can understand, on average, across one login or perhaps multiple, how much time is it taking your users, how many are successfully completing it, and then you can hypothesize based on did the users engage with WalkMe, which it is in this case, or did they not? And we can get an understanding of what types of users are more successful and how can we help those who are lagging behind. So all in all, whether you're owning the business process yourself, you're implementing it, then handing it off to a business unit, or you're just working as a shared services consultant in understanding where business processes can be optimized, WalkMe Insights can really help you understand where improvements can be made, in short, data. Then you can use WalkMe to take action, and consequently, what the employees will see is the end user experience of WalkMe, which we'll go into right now. First, let's take a look at WalkMe Workstation in the scope of employee communications and change management. And our first example is something we actually saw at WalkMe a few weeks ago. WalkMe Workstation offers these shoutouts or announcements on the desktop itself to ensure employees are aware of key milestones. In this case, HRIT is making sure that whether it be 401k enrollment, other benefits, or performance reviews, employees are aware and they are submitting things at a required date. But beyond the use case of just HRIT, WalkMe shoutouts can also drive announcements for change management, In WalkMe's case, we are going to be switching from Zendesk to ServiceNow in a very short amount of time. So we employees in stage 1 have been made aware with a WalkMe shoutout and a link to our knowledge base. When we take a look at all the notifications that we've seen at WalkMe in the past few weeks, WalkMe's announcements can also be used for the use cases of, say, downtime with specific systems or compliance reviews, switching over to a different mobile device manager. All in all, this ensures that the right targeted user populations are seeing the right communications. But WalkMe Workstation goes beyond the scope of just these notifications. What I've opened up here is the WalkMe Workstation interface, and what we can also do is unify all of your silos of information that your employees are trying to access. Previously, before WalkMe Workstation, we at WalkMe used Confluence, we used Google Drive, we were thinking about SharePoint. We had silos of information that I would need to search separately. But with Workstation, if I want to see information about our enablement forum, it's going to pull in all the results from the different locations, whether it be Confluence or Google Drive. This ensures that your employees aren't taking the time to search multiple databases or search repositories, and you, as an organization, don't need to go through the pain of consolidating those different bits of information. In addition to integrating with your different search providers, WalkMe's Workstation can be the one entry point for all of the tasks that your employees need to perform. Whether it be in an onboarding context, you need all of your onboarding users based on region, based on role, to download specific applications, go through different LMS courses. This onboarding task list can be that central access point for your new hires to know exactly where they need to go. And then on an ongoing basis, there are important bookmarks from each line of business. WalkMe IT has Microsoft Teams, as well as our IT service management tool that I need links to. WalkMe HR uses multiple applications. These can be where I go to access tasks easily and efficiently. Now let's actually revisit the use case that was discussed previously in the transition from Zendesk to ServiceNow that we at WalkMe will be undergoing this year. We've deployed WalkMe's in-workstation action bot to do IT service management tasks for our end users. So even if we made the switch tomorrow to ServiceNow, I would still come to the WalkMe action bot here. And if I wanted to open a ticket for access to a specific application, in this case, let's go ahead and say that I want access to Financial Force because I hear Services has access and I want to see what's going on there. What I'm doing is I'm interacting with the action bot. The action bot is asking me questions that make sense to me as a human in layman's terms. It isn't necessarily what displays in the IT tool, but that doesn't matter because I'm just going to give the information that this bot needs. And then the bot is going to translate it to whatever makes sense to the underlying application, and it'll submit it. So when I select go, what WalkMe is going to do is pull up Zendesk, our current IT tool, and it's going to automate before your very eyes all of the clicks and inputs that we need. So what you just saw was I gave data and information that made sense to me to the bot. The bot put it in the format that our service desk actually wants once it's submitted to Zendesk. And all I need to do is follow these instructions given by WalkMe in Zendesk and select submit. This is going to ensure the fastest turnaround times possible. And as you can imagine, it's going to be just as easy if we switch the backend system of truth. Now, in case this is your first time seeing WalkMe on this type of form, if I organically came here and I didn't use WalkMe Workstation as my entry point, we of course have the WalkMe web overlay, which we've had since our very beginning. And with hover tips like this, we can ensure that when I'm submitting a ticket type, it's the right ticket type, that I'm submitting the right department, and submitting the right priority. This is, again, another way that we can ensure that the right data is inputted the first time. Plus, as a bonus, We have another WalkMe capability on Zendesk, a feedback button, which, harking back to the adoption project's dashboard, is going to ask me for information with the WalkMe survey. And here, we're surveying for information on what did we like about Zendesk, what should we transition over to ServiceNow, and this is going to empower the stakeholders involved in the transition to make sure that when they spin up ServiceNow, they do everything right.
So those were some examples of how you can use WalkMe data, as well as WalkMe's desktop and in-app experiences to drive the success of your IT transformation initiatives in this fiscal year. And what I'm going to leave you with is one customer example of a WalkMe enterprise-wide employee-facing implementation that is driven by IT. And that customer, near and dear to my heart, is Red Hat. So Red Hat started with WalkMe in a typical fashion. They had an increased complexity of their digital landscape by switching over to some applications. They were switching to Salesforce Lightning, there was a CPQ transformation, and an HR transformation. So what they decided to do is, as they formed their Digital Transformation Center of Excellence under the Office of the CIO, is they utilized WalkMe as a tool to improve the associate experience and to ease the transition over to these new tools. What they eventually developed was an automation best practices model, a citizen developer model in which the Center of Excellence was the source of best practices and offered some shared services, and different organizations were empowered by IT to deploy WalkMe on their own. And what they used WalkMe's in-app guidance and automation capabilities for was to completely eliminate common support requests and to increase associate efficiency. One example of a success is they even had the guidance in 9 languages on Workday, and today they have WalkMe on over 20 applications within the organization, and of course, continuing to grow. So that's just one of the many examples that you could see on our website. And with that, I'll pass it off to Mary for the final thoughts and words.
All right. Thank you so much, Scott. We hope that this session has increased your understanding of the role of digital adoption in your digital transformation process. Adoption can apply to more than just functionality within an application, but can also apply to processes. And the ability to measure your adoption is one of the keys to ensuring the technology that you're providing to your end users is being used to its fullest. The flexibility of a digital adoption platform helps you solve the problems you need to solve where you need to solve them, and to provide valuable outcomes personalized for any company. So we've not only talked about what it is, we've talked about how it works, and we're looking forward to working with you individually through account engagements and other sessions here at Realize. Thanks so much for joining.